All right, so we're finalizing the weld up this week of the lower windshield in our 1966 Falcon. I will say this, it's not perfect, and I didn't anticipate perfect. I have never really done this kind of thing before. This was all just an idea I had on how to make this happen. A few things I would have done differently, but I'm not really going to go into those here either because I've kind of talked about them already. But as you can see, it actually is not too bad. We look pretty good with what we've got going on right now. It will be good enough to put a windshield on and slap a dash pad up against, and literally no one is ever going to look at that and go, aha, I see what you did there. Well, unless we see one of you smarty pants at a car show somewhere and you do that because we've said this in the opening moments of the video. Stay tuned. After the break, we're going to get right back into it and finish this thing up this week.
For 45 years, the Miller family and the dedicated staff at Autocrafters have been here helping you to restore your dream Ford. Thank you for your support. Here's to another 45 years of delivering parts for your Falcon, Fairlane, F100, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto.
I'm going to go ahead and run a couple more spots along here. I've got a high spot right here that I need to work on first. That's pulled down nicely. And now I'm going to go in and I'm just going to work a series of tacks. I've got my air here. I'm going to go ahead and run my gloves now. If you're doing a lot of welding, you'll see me sometimes wearing my blue denim shirt. A good idea to have, or a welding jacket. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and put that on. Make me look a little bit more official. This will keep the UVs from that MIG welder off of your skin to a degree. There's my weak spot from my metal before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug a fill there. I'm going to cut that loose. I'm getting down there toward it. And I will need to work that in a minute. Just like I said before, like a dog with his leash. Probably take a little more out of that. Get that angle right. I'm going to go ahead and run one more tack right after that first one or that last one I just set. Going to have to open up the line here. About as good as we're going to get right there. All right, I'm going to lay in a couple more tacks. And one final one right here on the end. That's rusty metal there, and that's why it's changing the way that sounds under welding. Pretty good. I'm going to attempt to get that corner on the bottom side down here to weld in. And then I'm going to start full tacking it. Believe me, this is pretty tedious work. Some of these I've kind of missed on. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm not a great welder. I'm letting him come in and pinch hit a little bit. We're working with a really thin metal, so it's kind of, I needed to be the one doing this primarily until he can learn how to weld that thin stuff together. I'm not a great welder, but I didn't want him to get frustrated doing this, if that makes any sense. Jackson's going to take over, do some welding. Luke, I am your father. Actually didn't say that in the movie. Okay, I'm going to go in with my belt sander now and sand down these welds. There's varying different ways to do this too. It's all subjective to anything you want to do. I like doing it this way. It's just kind of how it works out for me. But you may want to do it a different way. You may want to sand in between, like put a tacks in, sand the tacks, and then go back in and put your next tack in. That's what Robert McCartney does, a buddy of mine that we've had on the show before. So I'm going to go in and start working these though. I think I'm going to go grab my cut-off wheel to take the tops off of these and then finish them up with the sander. It's just taking a lot longer with the sander than I want. I'm using my cut-off wheel with my hearing protection, got glasses on, so hopefully this goes pretty well. I But a couple of quick things I want to go over on this. If you're at this point where we are right now, and we're just about done with what I want to get done this week, because I'm going to talk about a couple of little things here. You'll notice these dark spots that look like clouds. Happy little clouds. These are not happy little clouds. What these are is this is low spots, and this is where the weld puddle was at going across that panel when we welded it in. And what's going on is this is low. So what you can do is you can take your, like a belt sander like this, and run it this way across the panel a few times, and then come back in and go this way across the panel. And what that'll show you is where your low spots are. Now, the change in color, if you will, or grain of the metal, is this way's grain is low compared to the high spot on either side of it. So we know that we could probably come in from the back side and do a little bit of bumping on this to bring that up to a good level and make it nice and flat. Other than that, we're pretty good. The second tip is this. You can actually take and put a light back behind your piece of metal to go in and pick up any holes or spots that you missed. And unless you're an incredibly good welder and somebody that's been doing this for a while, Keith Fire, a couple of these other guys that watch the show will come in here and you know, make fun of my welding. And you're going to have these little pinholes that you're going to have to deal with. If you light them from the back, you'll be able to see them better, because some of them are so small that they're not going to show up. And what I'll typically do with these tiny ones is to drill them out with a small drill bit to make them bigger, to make them easier to fill. What can happen a lot of times if you leave these holes really small, you can end up with a puddle off to one side or on top of the area, but not actually filling that hole. You grind that back off again, and guess what? The hole's still there. So what you'll want to do is just kind of open these up a little bit with a drill bit, and then you can find them easily with the light back behind them and shoot some weld in there. Like some of these that look like holes, like this one right here, this looks like a hole, but it actually isn't. So there you go. Now it's just going to be a bunch of fit and fiddle on that. But there you go. There's our little panel that we made using a piece of rod and some patience and some time. We actually have this back in operation, and this was and is a fairly big job. All right, so that's our little show for this week. This actually turned out better than I thought it would. I'm happy enough. I'm going to go in off camera and bump some of these areas out a little bit and work on them and fill in these little pinholes. Actually, I'll probably have Jackson fill in the pinholes. And then we're going to just keep moving through this car and doing more of these weld ups. Now, we're not going to show you the rest of these because this was absolutely the most complicated of all the weld ups that we needed to do in here. So you've seen the hard stuff. The rest of it's just cake. Not that hard to do. Do me a favor, folks. Be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on down the road. Once again, I go from being crestfallen to feeling pretty darn good about how something turned out. I guess that's just how car stuff is.